thank God for the military's young men and women willing to see things that no human should ever have to see so we can sleep at peace at night.
The combat veterans of America, I believe, are not being serviced properly. They've given everything, they sacrificed.
Just when you think people don't care is when you need to come take a look at what people who care have done.
Darkhorse Lodge will serve combat veterans of all branches of the United States military forces, of all ages, men and women from all conflicts. Darkhorse is kind of a thank you to the veterans.
If they came here feeling something negative, our deepest hope is that they will leave feeling loved.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to our private benefit here on YouTube for the Darkhorse Lodge, a combat veterans retreat in West Tennessee. This is actually the second Ferrari Gallery event where we are tonight in Dallas to benefit the DHL, but it's our first attempt at sort of navigating our way through this virtually as we make our way through this new world thanks to the pandemic, but we're all getting used to doing that and have gotten used to it over the last year. So we thank you for tuning in. My name is Craig Wolf. Tonight I am with three amazing women. We've got Gretchen Catherwood, Deborah Ferrari, and Maura Chippendale. You're going to learn more about them tonight. They are amazing women. Throughout the next hour also, you're going to have the opportunity to help us out by donating directly to the Darkhorse Lodge. We're going to be calling it the DHL throughout the night by texting DHL25 to 44321. Or go to darkhorselodge.org/donate. That's www.darkhorselodge.org/donate. Or you can purchase Darkhorse original paintings and reproduction prints by going to the gallery store at ferrarigallery.net. So remember, please, no donations are too small or too large. So towards the end of the program, we're also going to be doing the drawing of the winning ticket for this, Deb, if you can hold it up. It's the 8x11 canvas print of Lusitano. Thank you. And it is spectacular. And I hope you'll be able to see as much as you can of the gallery tonight and the amazing work that's done here at the gallery in Dallas. So Gretchen Catherwood, we're going to start with you. So tell us sort of the origin story of the Darkhorse Lodge and how the whole idea came about.
Well, our son, Lance Corporal Alec E. Catherwood, was killed in action during the 3-5 Darkhorse unit's deployment to Afghanistan, Helmand Province, in 2010-2011, which sadly makes me a Gold Star mom. We moved from Northern Illinois down to West Tennessee in 2012, and immediately I started thinking about what it was that we could be doing for those who did come home after greeting some of them at the remembrance ceremony in Camp Pendleton and seeing some of the pain in their eyes. And it really just kind of haunted me. So I came up with the idea of Darkhorse Lodge, and my husband Kirk generously hopped on board after a little bit of convincing. But we are building a retreat for combat veterans. Like Craig said, in West Tennessee, we have five bedroom guest cabins. Each one of the bedrooms named for one of the boys that was killed tragically during their deployment. We also have an identical staff cabin. And then we have a lower level walkout / storm shelter, but it's our shower house. And then an upper level dining hall, which is named for Timothy Bowman, who tragically took his life in 2005 after returning from Iraq. So we will take these veterans, give them a place to hang out with other combat veterans free of charge for a 5-day stay. Take them fishing on Kentucky Lake. Just give them a place to kind of hang out with other veterans. Doesn't matter what branch of service, doesn't matter male, female, what war or conflict. Just give them a place to kind of hang out and be with others who have walked in their shoes.
So a lot's been accomplished, but there's much more still to be done.
There is much more still to be done.
And that's why we're here tonight.
Right.
All right, Gretchen, thank you. We're going to be going back to you periodically throughout the evening. We're going to be here for about an hour. So coming up, we're going to hear from some of these 3-5 combat vets, as well as combat vets from other military branches and conflicts and wars. Very compelling perspectives about their experience while serving and about their transition to civilian life. Here's a little bit more.
Hudson Null. I served in the United States Marine Corps. The deployment was a deployment with 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines to Helmand Province, Afghanistan in 2010.
Jessica Stella, and I was in the Army. I was deployed in Iraq for a year from 2003 until 2004.
Rob Gilbert, and I served in the United States Marine Corps. I was deployed to Iraq during the initial invasion in 2003.
Sean Johnson, and my branch was the United States Marine Corps. And I did 2 tours in Afghanistan, one in 2009 and one in 2010, 2011.
Don Knight, I served in the Air Force from 66 to 1970. I spent a year in Vietnam.
William Sutton, my branch of service is the United States Marine Corps. I've been deployed to Singing, Afghanistan.
Kurt Duggar, I was in the Marine Corps from 2000 till 2008. Deployed to Iraq in 2003. I was there for the initial invasion.
Clancy Cheek, and I served in the United States Marine Corps. I deployed to Singing, Afghanistan in the end of 2010 into 2011.
We also tonight have some special performances by an amazing group of people. They're called Voices of Service. It's Master Sergeant Caleb Green, Staff Sergeant Ron Henry, Sergeant Major Crystal Reams, and Sergeant First Class Jason Hanna. They comprise Voices of Service, and you should know, maybe you've heard of them if you watch America's Got Talent, because they were finalists on that show, America's Got Talent. And they're part of Camo Music, which is bringing healing through music. Very inspirational, very much a treat, and you'll be hearing of them. I think they're going to be performing 4 songs during our benefit tonight. We're also going to be revealing some new pieces by Deborah Ferrari. Deborah, it's your turn. Tell us how you came to meet Gretchen and got involved in fundraising efforts with the Lodge.
Well, I owe that all to my really great friend. She's been a friend of mine for many years, Mara. And gosh, back in 2013, I might be off a year or two, I was working in my studio in Colorado. I was paying a lot of horses at the time. And so she's like, hey, let me send you this NPR story about the Dark Horse,
because my son joined the Marine Corps and he was assigned to the 3-5 unit after they came back from their deployment in Afghanistan. And he told me, Mom, I'm going to be a Dark Horse Marine. I'm like, what do you mean, a Dark Horse Marine? And he said, they're the most highly decorated unit in Marine Corps, history. And I said something to my friend who's into horses, of course. And you did some more research.
Yeah, well, just listening to the story, the NPR story that Bowman did, and I was like, wow, I was pretty blown away. So I'm like, okay, I painted the first painting, and as a tribute and a memorial and to honor, and then after that, Mara introduced me to Gretchen, and so then Mara was like, hey, Deb, what about doing 25 paintings to honor the 25 fallen? And I was like, okay. Yeah, and I don't, yeah.
And you knock those off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. No, I'm only up to 16.
Oh.
But, and I donated a portion of the sale to the lodge, and I give Gretchen and the Darkhorse Lodge complete rights to the paintings so they can print them and use them however they like. So we do have some originals tonight and some prints available too. So all of, 15% of the sales will go to the lodge.
Very generous.
Yeah, and so that's kind of how I met Gretchen.
So we have a Gold Star Marine Corps mom, we have a Blue Star Marine Corps mom, we've got an amazing American abstract artist who supported this cause forever. But we should mention, and you guys know more than I do, the 3-5 battalion goes back, I believe, to over 100 years, to World War I.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we mentioned Voices of Service, that amazing group that appeared on America's Got Talent. Right now, we're going to introduce their first song. It is called Fire.
Oh, if there's one thing to be taught, is dreams are made to be caught, and friends can never be bought. Doesn't matter how long it's been, I know you'll always jump in, 'cause we don't know how to quit. Let's start a riot tonight, a pack of lions tonight. In this world, he who stops won't get anything he wants. Play like the top 1%, till nothing's left to be said. We don't care, we won't stop. Call your mothers, call the cops. We are the champions, setting it off again. Oh, we are fire. We are fire. Burning our own campaign, doing the whole shebang. Oh, we are fire. We are fire. Hey, get up, throw your hands up. Welcome to the motherland.
Those are incredible voices. And
Very good.
this is amazing artwork here at the gallery. I failed second grade art and music, so that's why I'm here in this seat tonight. Just incredible. We're going to hear more from that group as we go on. Gretchen, let's go back to you and talk a little bit about the mission. Tell us, we want you to talk in general, but who will the Darkhorse Lodge serve?
Darkhorse Lodge will serve combat veterans across the board, from World War II, if we're blessed enough to have any, to Korean War vets, to Vietnam, to OIF, OEF, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, all the combat veterans from every branch of service, male, female, all ages, like I said, from every war and conflict. We will have available 25 spots every week. Our live-in staff will also be combat veterans. And then once per quarter, we plan on having a couples week. So, significant others, husbands, wives can come, and during the day, the sponsors, as when I remember from the Army being called, the sponsors will go do something during the day, and the dependents will go do something during the day, and then come together back in the evening for, dinner time, bonfire, fellowship, kumbaya around the campfire, whatever works. But we hope to make it a 5-day stay at the beginning, and then if we feel that we can extend it, then eventually we might do a 6-day stay, where we will offer not only fishing, but perhaps horseback riding, maybe take some to the range if they don't feel like fishing that day. And then we'll expand it further into a woodworking project also later on, woodworking program, I'm sorry. And see how it develops, but add programs as we go.
So we mentioned it's in West Tennessee, just for people who are joining us tonight. And again, if you're just with us, we appreciate you participating tonight. You said West Tennessee. Where does that sit relative to Nashville, Memphis, whatever?
We're about 2 hours straight west of Nashville and about 3 hours northeast of Memphis, straight below Paducah, Kentucky. We're in what's known as Land Between the Lakes area, so right kind of between Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley, right inside Henry County, which is in Paris, right outside of Paris in Springville. So yeah, really, really beautiful area. Lots of lakes, fantastic fishing. A lot of bass tournaments happen out there, actually. We have quite a few tournaments.
Gorgeous part of the country. All right,
Beautiful.
Thank you, Gretchen. In preparation for this benefit tonight, we were fortunate to sit down, and again, it was virtually, with several vets, many of them combat vets. It was my pleasure to do these interviews and hear their stories, stories from their deployments and stories from their combat experiences.
It's a trauma. Combat is a trauma to the human body. I understand that Marines and military, they sign up to go and do this, but at 18 years old, I don't think that, we can't comprehend that because we've never been in that situation. And then all of a sudden it happens to us, and it really rewires a person and the way they see the world.
An 8-year-old boy or girl could walk up and hand you a hand grenade with the pin pulled. I did lose a couple friends over that. They not realizing what was going on. And that's why we had to protect ourselves against them, because that's the people that we were not wanting to fight against, but that's what we had to fight against because that's what was happening to us.
It was a pretty hostile environment. 3-5, our unit to date we lost more Marines than any other single Marine Corps unit between Iraq and Afghanistan. Day to day, it was basically either firefights or IED threats or IEDs. So, it was definitely a life-changing experience.
My deployment to Sangin was short-lived, unfortunately. I got wounded early. Just got done with a patrol, and one of our other elements took contact. So we went back out to secure the area around us and make sure that, if anybody comes for us, we're ready for them. Well, they did come for us, and we were semi-ready for them. I got hit 4 times with PKM. I mean, it was just a very bad day.
There were a lot of times where I had to clean blood off of pictures of kids from soldiers' wallets. And those are each and every one of those times, so that we could send the pictures home to the family, affected me in a way. So I actually wouldn't say that any one time was the hardest.
My last deployment was to a place called Sangin, which is in the Helmand province of Afghanistan. And as soon as we got there, immediately upon arriving in the AO, we were taking gunfire on the helos coming down, and then gunfire all the way into the forward operating base called Inkerman. Everything kind of seemed on the up and up until about 5 o'clock that evening, 6 o'clock that evening. Our platoon did a battle damage assessment, and during that time, my corpsman, HM3 Long, was shot 3 times on the way back into the base. That was our platoon's first casualty. So we knew right then and there, it wasn't going to be good. And within about the next week, we had started losing quite a bit of people, to include 2 members of my squad, Lance Corporal Catherwood and Lance Corporal Joseph Lopez.
Alec, my best friend, was near and dear to my heart, and he was killed on October the 14th. We were ambushed and in a sustained multiple casualties. Out of my squad, there was only 3 of us left that were combat effective. My squad leader took shrapnel in the leg, and we had Lopez, and then of course Lance Corporal Alec Catherwood, who was killed as well. So, and I was right there with him. And so that was really rough for me. I mean, obviously he was my best friend, and then to have him taken like that so suddenly, it was hard to deal with. 'Cause then you lace up your boots and you go back out the next day and do your job again. You don't really, that's it. You see him, you put him on the helicopter and that's it.
It's unpleasant. Watching a human being be mutilated by some type of explosive is also unpleasant. But again, you're able to look past those things. It doesn't make it any easier to swallow. However, we are trained to look past it enough to stay focused on the mission and carry out the mission.
They train you not to have feelings. They train you to keep marching when your buddy is laying there in a pool of his own bodily fluid. And so, turning that off is pretty hard.
When they got off the bus, when they got home, you could just see the change. They were different. They were glassy-eyed, the 1,000-yard stare. You could see everything that we didn't know about trauma and PTSD was there.
It's just so amazing for me. I'm not a veteran. I did not serve. I'm the son of a World War II veteran. My grandfather fought in World War I, and my dad did not talk a lot about the war.
My dad didn't either. He was
Right.
World War II.
Right, and I knew your
talked
dad. He was
Yeah.
an amazing guy.
Yeah.
The challenges existed in wars 100 years ago,
Sure.
and 70 years ago,
Sure.
and returning from a deployment or a combat deployment, and they exist now. Talk a little bit about that, Gretchen.
Well, I think so many of the challenges that veterans today face, and this is something that I experienced when my husband came home from Desert Storm, is that unless they're with another combat veteran, it seems, then talking about their experiences is really, really difficult. There were so many things that Kirk wouldn't or couldn't talk about with me or about with anybody besides somebody who was there, wherever there might have been. He could speak to my father, who was a Korean War veteran, but not to me or to his, perhaps friends from high school who didn't experience some of the things he experienced. So to bring these people together, in a place where everybody there except me, it will enable them to speak freely, whether it happens organically or intentionally doesn't even seem to matter. I think a lot of people don't even realize that we need to talk about something until we're in the position, and wow, then the floodgates can really open.
Right. Well, let's hear more about some of those challenges from the veterans themselves.
The age of the Vietnam War, that was a completely different scene. The nation as a whole, that other 99%, wasn't willing to take care of them, was willing to listen to what the administrations had to say or what the media had to say.
After I finished my tour in Vietnam, and I got on an airplane and flew back to San Francisco to come home on leave. When I got off the airplane in San Francisco, they were spitting at us, spitting on us, throwing stuff at us, and they were treating us like criminals. Everybody that was on that plane was really treated bad and felt bad. We went into the bathrooms, changed our military clothes to civilian clothes, packed them away, and flew home in our civilian clothes, and never talked about Vietnam after that.
I didn't know what to do in the real world of civilian life. I was lost, really. I was forced out. I was medically retired. I didn't know anything other than the military. All I wanted to do was be a Marine. I hate to say this. The military trains you to go to war. They train you to be numb. They train you to forget about every feeling that your body wants to just run. And then when you get out, they don't train you how to get back into the world.
We had a class called SEPs and TAPS, which was about a week-long course of how to separate from the military and go on with your civilian life. During the course, one of the first things they do is try to figure out what job you did in the military and show you what jobs you would qualify for outside of the military. Of course, truck drivers, electricians, all that stuff's pretty obvious. They get around to me and one other guy in the room who are infantrymen. And they say, who's infantry? And we raise our hands. And they said, oh, well, sorry, guys, you're going to have to start over from scratch. You're really not qualified for anything. And that was essentially the most helpful thing we got from our transition period of leaving the military.
Just transitioning to civilian life, all in itself, just a whole different world out here. The world's driven by money and finances and, you know, making people money. And so that's kind of not a military philosophy.
It can be overwhelming because a lot of people that go into the military are young and they went from living with their parents or something of that nature to going into the military, and they don't have a lot of life experience because the military is taking care of you.
You got to, you know, kind of suck it up and, you know, put the military aside for a minute and learn how to be a moneymaker, learn how to be a good father. You know, the military is no longer your daddy and mom anymore. So you're back in charge of yourself. And that can be really, really, really frustrating.
I came back to the civilian world and it wasn't the same. I wasn't the same mentally or physically or emotionally.
I was just in this super high stress environment and everything, overseas. And then I come home and I'm supposed to just be different, you know, I'm supposed to try to unwind or, you know, be able to go out into a crowd of people and not feel uncomfortable kind of thing.
Getting back to a civilian lifestyle, going to, you know, taking college courses, just feeling, you know, kind of like I'm exposed or out in the open. That was a big pill to swallow for me and a big adjustment.
The experiences that a combat veteran has had, you know, it is literally life or death with every step that they take or every mile that they move or every time they wake up. They don't know if they're going to, you know, come home again.
You're operating at like such a high adrenaline, you know, that then you come home and it's like nothing seems to matter really.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you don't get enjoyment out of things that you used to.
There is no debriefing, as I like to call it, a debrief session that's like, okay, this is what you've done. Now, what can we do to translate what you've done and what you deal with every day to help you get through this to be a better person within the community, other than a judged person in the community.
Combat deployments are the best and worst times of your life. You're only supported by the guys on your right and left, and you become very close to them because you're all each other has.
The camaraderie is something that you can't find really anywhere else, especially here in civilian life.
You're essentially surrounded by family. You hear people say, well, I've got a friend he's like a brother to me. Well, they weren't like brothers. The Marines in my platoon were actually my brothers. They were my family as much as any other human being could be part of my family. And you're taking people that go from that environment where you're completely connected and you have complete faith and trust in everybody that's around you. And now they're out of the military and they're essentially all alone.
That brotherhood for me was gone. I felt kind of like an outsider.
Even if they have a great family life waiting for them outside the military, it's different. And you start getting these feelings of isolation, and you're dealing with all the other mental problems and stresses going on in the world, and you feel like you don't have anybody to turn to. Like there's nobody to lean on. You don't know how to ask anybody for help, and nobody really knows how to help you because nobody's been in that situation before.
Survivor's guilt is real. The loss that come with coming home, where your buddies may not have come home.
Braggs was shot and killed. He was right in front of me. We were crossing a field, and he was mortally struck. And he died right there in that field. Once you come home, you have a lot more time to think about that stuff and really process and put emotion to the things that happened. As to where there you can't, because you're trying to keep you and your brothers alive. You don't have time to mourn or anything like that.
Even though it was many, many years, after I got out, the what ifs, what if I would have gone back? What if I would have stayed in? What if I would have redeployed with the guys? Maybe so-and-so would still be alive.
The hardest part of my deployment was my guys getting killed and me not being able to do anything about it. That was the hardest part. That was like letting them down. So that's why I live every day that I do, in order to honor them, because I wasn't there for them when they needed me the most.
Well, while we are tackling difficult topics tonight, we also made a decision to try to make this an enjoyable, hour for those of you who are taking part. So you see us smiling and, and enjoying ourselves. One of the difficult issues, and I can only imagine the emotional roller coaster that you and your family have been in, being a Gold Star mom. One of the other really difficult topics to talk about is the suicide rate amongst veterans, which is about 1.5 times the suicide rate of the general public.
That we know of.
And that we know of that's reported.
Sure.
And also increasing year to year over the past several years. I know more you have a few things.
This is something that we need to talk about, that needs to be an open dialogue, that needs to be known that there's a problem out there. This is the reason why the Darkhorse Lodge exists, so that if there's a veteran that is struggling, that it feels, as Kurt Duggar would say, they're on the abyss and they want to jump into that abyss, that there are some options to not do that.
Give them some more resources, more of a network, a bigger network.
And I think that for myself as a Blue Star mom, Marine moms all take care of all the Marines, that it's our duty to make sure that our sons and daughters are taken care of.
Right.
So I think this is something that we need to talk about, we need to solve. We need to solve this problem.
And the numbers are so high, but as we were talking about earlier, it's so often underreported because so many losses that we suffer in the military may appear to be something else. A death might appear to be, say, a car accident, where it's reported as a car accident, but that was potentially on purpose. So that's another one that could have been added to the list. Some people say 22 a day, some people say 23 a day, and there are many sources that say it's substantially higher than that. So, not all are reported as what they truly are.
Right. So to continue the conversation on that topic, let's hear more from veterans and their family members.
We are losing more military members by suicide from deployment than we're losing military members in deployment.
When they wanted to name the dining hall after Timmy, of course that got me right here. There's no question about that.
Right now, we're sitting Darkhorse Lodge in Bowman Hall. It's our dining facility. It's named after specialist Tim Bowman, who was tragically took his own life when he returned home from overseas.
Thanksgiving Day 2000.
Thanksgiving Day, Tim decided he had had enough.
Our son joined the National Guard to get a little structure in his life and joined something that was a worthy cause. In 2004, on his 21st birthday, they flew to Iraq in March, and in March of 2005, they came home, and they had been through, for lack of a better term, they'd been through a meat grinder over there.
You see some bad things that you hope to God no one has to see. And when you see gruesome images like that, like they never leave your mind.
You carry that burden around with you, and who can I tell this to? No, I can't. I'm not going to tell my wife that. I'm not going to unload that on my pastor.
And the thing is, some people don't even know they're carrying it around with them.
They just bury it.
Tim's commanding officer, Major Kessel, had pleaded with the Army to, when they brought these guys home, to have them go through the same demobilization process that a regular Army unit would have coming home from a combat location. Or the National Guard leadership said, no, we've got this under control, it'll be fine. And 8 months later, we lost Timmy.
I think largely the reason that most veterans commit suicide is I don't think they're given the tools upon separation from the service, first of all.
I'm not going to bash the VA, but a lot of them feel like it's failed them because there's no set system in their mind to make them better.
Someone from my unit actually just committed suicide. I think it's been about 2 weeks now, and we got back from Iraq in 2004. So that's 17 years ago. We got home and he just committed suicide. He still wasn't able to transition.
I've seen it happen. I've lost very good friends to it, and it's guys a lot of times that you would never expect, that you'd never see it coming. See any outside signs, total surprise. And there were times I have struggled with those things too.
I know for some, those highs and lows, those lows can be pretty harsh. And veteran suicide, as I'm sure you and anyone else knows, is something that has been, the battle that's on our doorstep. That's a danger that some people just don't get away from.
If this can happen to Timmy, it can happen to any one of us. He was the last person that they ever thought. And as it turned out, he had the softest heart of all of them.
We're now going to talk about continuing this topic, which is the most, difficult of the night to talk about. And that's the critical need to help the healing, whether it's safe spaces or peer-to-peer counseling. So I'm going to open it up to you three to talk about that.
Well, I have a friend of mine who is former military, and then after he got out of the military, went into law enforcement.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yes. And has his demons and had his struggles, and found a place that in Massachusetts that had peer-to-peer counseling, and he learned how to be a peer counselor and how important it was for him to let some of those things go that allow him to have a better quality of life,
sure,
to go on.
Sure.
So I think that, this outlet with a lodge will be so important because everybody can come together, and one guy might help another guy, and that guy might help another guy, and then boom,
That's
we
right.
may save a life. They may save a life.
And one.
One.
It sounds so cliche, and almost trite. It's been said so many times, but I truly, honestly feel it. If one veteran comes to Darkhorse Lodge feeling like, pretty much at any moment, it could just be worth letting go and being done with it, but then meets other people and goes through this experience and ends up changing his mind. I mean, holy cow, that's everything. That's everything.
And I say guy, and I mean
Sure.
guys and
Women.
gals.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where no matter what subsection of society you happen to be in, you know, to be able to discuss it with somebody else like yourself, you know, for me to talk to another Gold Star mom, it's easier than to talk with, you know, somebody who hasn't lost a child or even who even lost a child in a different way. Not that it's any more tragic or less tragic either way, but to really understand what I'm going through, it's just it's valuable. I mean, it's incredibly valuable. It's priceless, you know.
Well, we're asking you tonight to tell your friends and tell your family members and tell your neighbors and tell anyone you know that we need to finish everything that's already been started at the Darkhorse Lodge. There is a critical need to be met, and we want to talk a little bit more about that right now. So what do you have to share on that?
Let's go to the video.
All right, we said before, if we hit everything perfectly, this was going to look fake, like we weren't really live.
No chance.
We wanted to have at least one hiccup. So there was our hiccup.
Well, I think that was our second hiccup.
Ansley in Georgia, who's pulling all the strings behind the scenes in Georgia from a remote location.
And thank you, Chris.
And Chris is behind the
Chris
camera
Neal
right
behind
now.
the camera.
Ansley, roll the
Love
tape.
you guys.
Sharing your story is powerful and is a powerful tool for healing, because it is only by sharing your story do you heal yourself, but you also help to heal others.
Talking with other vets, I enjoy that the most because we can relate to each other's situation, even though it may be they were in a different area, a different branch, but we all understand what we all went through serving our country.
Of any era, I can appreciate everyone's piece of the pie. It doesn't matter what branch you were in, what era and time you were in. I enjoy talking to other veterans. I think it's just it's a small circle within the American culture of people who they saw a different side of America, what it stands for, how it's, you know, stayed a country, how it became and stays a country.
I think veterans can benefit from a place like Darkhorse Lodge immensely, just due to the fact that you can, if life starts to just overwhelm you to the point where, you know, you can't really make good decisions, which does happen. That's a great place to know that you could pull back to, regroup, talk to other people that may be going through the same thing. Because, you know, unfortunately, not everybody knows exactly what's going on with vets out there.
There's this running joke where if you see a floor that's all tile, beautiful tile, and all of it matches, and then there's one tile in the middle missing, and there's just a red cement brick. That's kind of like how the military fit in.
Civilians will never understand what we go through. They can only go off of what social media, the news, and what they hear. They will never be able to experience what we've experienced.
The lack of an understanding or true understanding is the biggest part, is why it's hard for veterans and combat veterans to talk about their experience to those that haven't shared the experience.
People who put themselves in harm's way and who have seen such horrible things that we would never, ever, ever imagine in our deepest, darkest imaginations. They need an outlet.
Soldiers, airmen, Marines, all branches of service. I think that's important that we have safe spaces, because we all have these unique shared experiences as military service members. And because of those unique experiences, we need to have those spaces where we can talk to one another and take all the ideas that we have and all the different emotions that we have, and be able to take those things and say, I know what you've gone through, I know what you've gone through, and we can heal together, because we learn in community. So I think that if we learn in community and we can grow in community, we also can heal in community.
Peer counseling is very important to us because they know where each other have been.
Having these guys talk to people of like minds and like pasts, it helps them release the demons. It helps get things off their chest. It helps get them off their heart. And most of all, it helps get it out of their head.
Being a combat veteran, and you meet another combat veteran, you don't feel so much on the outside.
Really, you can just let it all out when you're talking to another veteran.
They can just let it go and be around other people who chances are really need to do the exact same thing. So they can be the listener, or they can be the listened to, or they can be both.
It's a place where you can go and relax. And they have a lot of different options there. They have fishing, they have different things that you can do while you're there and just relax. There's no schedule. So it's a good place that if a veteran doesn't feel comfortable talking to the VA or talking to a counselor, or they've tried that before and it didn't work for them, they just end up getting aggravated, because I've done the same thing. But just being around those people that you can know and trust, it means a lot.
Being able to relate in a real world and not just, oh yeah, I can imagine that would be rough, but like, no, I know it was rough because I was there too. That's the important part, is being with other combat veterans that can understand the nuances and the feelings and the fears that are associated with being in a combat situation and being in combat.
The Darkhorse Lodge gives space for veterans to essentially go and spend time and meet up with other vets, with other guys that are in the same situation they're in. Just having a guy that's on the edge, that's going through a really bad time in his life, and putting him in a place where he can see that he's not alone, that he has somebody else to talk to that has gone through this same craziness or chaos that he's going through, that can change somebody on a dime.
So we are talking, and you are hearing about the critical need for support for the Darkhorse Lodge. So we are going to, once again, and we know it's at the bottom of your screen for a good part of the show tonight, the program tonight. But to donate, there's a couple of ways. You can text DHL25, DHL25 to 44321, DHL25, text it to 44321, or go to darkhorselodge.org/donate, darkhorselodge.org/donate, or you can follow us on Facebook. It's Darkhorse Lodge. You can stay current, you can donate, and you can follow and
all the progress.
Keep up to speed on the latest on the progress.
Darkhorse Lodge on Insta as well.
Instagram, sure.
We've got an Insta expert up there. You the youngest one here? Is that what you know more about?
You can put those links on your dog's collar and send your dog into the biggest mall. Wouldn't that be cool?
Get attention
That would
that
get
way. Do you work in,
It just occurred to me, there's other ways you could do this.
do you work in marketing? You should. You heard a couple of those songs earlier. Actually, this is only their second song tonight. The band is called The Band. It's not really a band. It's 4 amazing voices. They're called Voices of Service. This is their second song of the night, and it's entitled Brother.
When we were young, we were the ones, the kings and queens, oh yeah, we ruled the world. We smoked cigarettes, man, no regrets, wish I could relive every single word. We've taken different paths and traveled different roads. I know we'll always end up on the same one when we're old.
And when you're in the trenches and you're under fire, I will cover you.
If I was dying on my knees, you would be the one to rescue me. And if you were drowned at sea, I'd give you my lungs so you could breathe. I've got brother, I've got you sister, I've got you my brother, I've got you, sister. Oh, brother, we'll go deeper than the ink beneath the skin of our tattoos. Though we don't share the same blood, you're my sister, and I love you, that's the truth. We're living different lives, and heaven only knows if we'll make it back with all our fingers and our toes. 5 years, 20 years, come back and it will got you, my brother. I've got you, sister.
And if we hit on trouble water, I'll be the one to keep you warm and safe. And we'll be carrying each other until we say goodbye on our dying day.
'Cause I've got you, sister. I've got you, my brother. I've got you, sister. If I was dying on my knees, you would be the one to rescue me. And if you were drowned at sea, I'd give you my lungs so you could breathe. Oh, you would be the one to rescue me. I'd give you my lungs so you could breathe. I've got you, brother. I've got you, sister. Now I got you, my brother. I got you, sister.
Just incredible, and we're grateful to them for being a part of our
Yes.
program tonight. Let's talk now about the journey and what progress has been made to date. Gretchen?
Well, we broke ground in 2017, and early 2018 is when we started our foundations. We got the foundations completed, we got the framing done, we got the siding put on, and then the roof, the roofing was done. So all the exteriors of the buildings were done relatively quickly, within a little over a year or so. And then we started on the inside. We had the shell for so long that all of a sudden, once the drywall was put up, it was taking shape. To see the shape, coming together was really cool. So we've got the drywall, we've got the insulation. We primed and painted every single wall. We currently have the flooring done. We have.
I remember texting her, and she, because the pandemic hit, she said that, nobody was there to help, so she was painting. I remember that. Rolling. I said, "Do you have G.I. Joe grip?" She said,
I did.
"You have no idea."
I did. I had G.I. Joe grip for a long time.
She painted everything.
Yeah, 2 months of my life painting, but it was okay. It was okay. I did have some help. Kurt Duggar's family came and helped, and we had a couple other people come to help, but that was a challenge. It was easy because there were no doors, there was no trim, there was no flooring, and so it was something. Okay, you know what? We could spend $5,000 per building or more, or I could do it myself and save that money. And it didn't matter if I got drips on the plywood floors because they were going to be covered with flooring anyway. So
And
it
you
worked
got
out
the
really well.
paint donated, right?
We did. We got the paint donated. The interior paint was donated by True Value up in Illinois. And then the foundation paint was donated by Sherwin-Williams there in Paris, Tennessee, which was pretty cool. The roofing was donated by AMB Roofing out of Johnsburg, Illinois. So we've been really fortunate to have.
What about the fixtures?
The plumbing fixtures were donated by Kohler Company, as well as a zero-turn 60-inch commercial grade mower. Kohler donated that along with XL Hustler. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then we've had things like the block for the retaining walls was donated. And we paid for half, and they donated half of the septic system, and that happened with several different companies. But so then we got the flooring done in just this past December. We got the tongue and groove ceilings up in the great rooms in the dining hall, and then we had the ceiling fans put up and the smoke detectors in place. So my husband installed all the interior doors, and we're working on trim next and decking. So we're moving right along. We're moving right along.
And speaking of work to be done, different kind of painting.
Yeah.
You have something to say about that also.
About my paintings, yes. You want me to talk about like how I
You
started
can
with
talk
them?
about whatever you want to talk about.
Okay.
That's the beauty of this sort of format.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I talked a little bit about how this whole Darkhorse collection painting series started with Mara and then Gretchen. And to tell you a little bit about how I start each painting. Right now, with these 4 new paintings that we have in the gallery, I'm up to 16. And so they always start with the horse, actually finding the right horse. Most of the time I try and photograph the horse with the flag on it. Every single flag that's on the horses in the paintings, it's from one flag. And other times I work with equine photographers and I use their imagery. So that's really the first step, is finding the right horse. And then I get into the blank canvas, and then I block these images in acrylic, and then they are finished in oil. So, and once I'm finished with the whole collection, it's going to take me a little bit longer, probably a couple more, maybe possibly 5 years. The flag will be donated to the lodge. I did make a promise to someone that would happen, and it may have a little horsehair on it and a few other things, but it will be flying at the lodge. So that's kind of the behind the scenes how I work on these paintings. They do take a great deal of time. And I was telling these guys, you would think like putting on a black background is simple. It's not. It's probably one of the most difficult backgrounds I've ever, had to use.
Nothing about that looks simple to me, so you know.
And I love it.
So
They're all very
I think it's so
special.
symbolic. It's a labor of love, and it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
It's a labor of love for our combat veterans, you know?
You walk into this gallery here, we're in Dallas at the Ferrari Gallery in the Design District. I look at your paintings and they take your breath away.
Yeah,
They do.
for sure.
Whether it's what you see behind us, the dark horses or anything here, and your husband's sculptures are just, they're mind-blowing.
Oh,
They're incredible.
Thank you.
Did we say that? We're going to have a look and a listen now at what's going on the lodge these days.
So far, this is where we've gotten. We have all the exterior of the buildings done, except for a few things here and there. We've got to still paint the foundations. We didn't do one building at a time. We just did every step all the way through in every building. As you can see, we have no landscaping. So we have a lot of work to do landscaping.
This is staff.
This is staff, yep. And then these are cabins 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are the guest cabins. These are technically the backs of the building. On the front side of the buildings, we'll have one long deck that goes from the end of cabin 1 clear across to the end of cabin 5. We'll have a concrete patio down at the base of the shower house with an upstairs deck going all the way across the dining hall too. These guest cabins are all identical, and the staff cabin's the same too. It's just that they have showers. So in every guest cabin, we have 5 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms on this side, 3 bedrooms on the other. Each one of these bedrooms is the same for one of the 25 boys that was killed from the Darkhorse 3-5 unit. And in here we have the great room. This is where everybody will kind of congregate and spend time together. The reason we chose this side for the front of the buildings was because it overlooks the woods. And it's just beautiful, so peaceful. We have lots of wild turkeys back there. We have quite a group of deer that like to hang out here. We have a good 8 or 9 deer. We'll have rocking chairs and everything outside here. And the deck itself is about 185 feet long. That'll be a really great place for the fire pit to be. And then we'll have a trail that goes back through there up to a place that we like to call the Bluffs. So this is Bowman House. This is our dining facility. This is actually the kitchen entrance here. The guest entrance is on the other side. Down this small hallway is where the guest restroom is, and this is our main dining room itself. This is where all 25 guests will be in at one time, in one place at one time. This is where we will serve breakfast and dinner. We figured we'd rather have round tables, which is much better for being able to chat with people rather than doing the long conference style tables. Off the dining room is our fishing store, so where they'll come in and they'll get their rods and their reels and their bait and their tackle and everything for the day.
We really hope you guys are enjoying this program as much as
We are.
enjoying bringing it to. It's just amazing. And you know, the voices of Service, thank you very much, are amazing. So we're going to get to one of their songs in a second. We're also going to get to meet some of our special supporters, and we're going to let Deb talk a little bit more about her process when painting these. I had to ask you the right name for these because when I look at them, I can't talk. They're so spectacular, these photorealism equine paintings, best way to put it. Okay, but first let's listen to Voices of Service and the song Rise.
I won't just survive, oh, you will see me thrive. Can write my story, I'm beyond the archetype. I won't just conform, no matter how you shake my core. My roots, they run deep. Oh, you have so little faith. Victory is in my veins, and now I'm not negotiating.
Obviously, none of this can be done without our supporters like you. So we want to talk about that, but we also want to take a second to talk about our business sponsors. And Maura, as they say in broadcasting, we're going to throw it over to you.
Over to you, Maura.
So we do want to acknowledge PC Tech to You, Robert Lockwood, who also provided the internet.
Line of sight internet, and he's also donating different things for each cabin.
Yes.
Very, very generous man, Robert. Thank you.
Oro Valley Audiology, Dr. Judy Nealon Hutch. Chris Nealon. Her son is now a Marine. He just joined the Marine Corps recently.
That's exciting.
And then my own practice.
Chippendale
Audiology.
Audiology. Thank you, Maura.
Yes.
We like to do good. We like to give back, for
They
sure.
do good.
And talk about our supporters.
We have a whole host of supporters, many of whom are watching this right now, but we have people who have done fundraisers for us over the years. Oh my goodness. Starting with one of my favorite people in the world, Aubrey Hedden. She does a t-shirt for us every single year and sells hundreds of these t-shirts. She and her mother, Cass, they put these things in envelopes and they ship them. And it sounds easy, but it's not easy. That's a ton of work. Aubrey, she had a picture of her beautiful prom dress go viral a couple years ago. She's an incredible supporter, and I don't know what we'd do without our buddy Aubrey, who happens to also be my birthday buddy. We have people who do bike shows, bike rides all across the country, so many in Northern Illinois, to include Ron Sodko, who's one of our big supporters, and the Marine Vets Motorcycle Club. All the chapters in Illinois have kind of adopted the Darkhorse Lodge. They've also donated a ton of woodworking equipment for us for once we get our Warrior Wood Shop up and running. We've got a little girl in Paris, Tennessee, who several years did a lemonade stand for us. We had a really great Marine friend and his family come from Texas to do a pulled pork benefit in the parking lot at Kroger. It was phenomenal. It was some of the best pulled pork I've ever had in my life. That was Rob and his wife Kimber and their family came. We have had so many different fundraisers all over the country, and we cannot be any more grateful. I haven't touched on all of them, but because I can't. But we're super grateful for every last one. And like Craig was saying earlier, nothing is too small. Nothing is too small. $1 is
And
a step
nothing
in
is
the right
too
direction.
big either.
Absolutely nothing's too big. If you have $1 million, we'll take that too. $1, $1 million, we'll take it.
It is really cool for me to be with three amazing women like this tonight. Deb, we're going to put you on the spot a little bit and to talk about yourself and your work and your process, because as I said before, I was going to say not to be the dead horse. That would not be a good thing to say right now.
No, that's a good thing to say. All those horse lovers out there.
Your work is just so spectacular. So take us through your process.
So the process starts with finding the right horse. I kind of mentioned this a little earlier. That's really a big part of it. I do a lot of research. I spend months. I reach out to people that have horses, and I'm like, okay, does anyone have a black horse? Let me know. Or, because there's certain stables and there might be like more than one horse there. And so the last time we did an event, I found a horse here in Texas. I was so grateful. He was a big, black, beautiful Arabian stallion, and he did not mind the flag on him at all. Sometimes when I photograph these horses, they won't let you put the flag on. So then I superimpose them onto the horse, and then before I paint them into a picture, because I do work from a photo, I have to. And so that's a really big, that's how I start these paintings.
Can I ask a question? Rebecca?
Yeah.
Are the majority of the horses that you paint male or female?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. My biggest thing is finding a black horse or a horse that, how do I say this? Not all horses are photogenic, and capturing them.
Like horses?
Well, no, I mean, sometimes they're tired or, just let me out into the pasture kind of thing. And so it's always a trick to photograph them because I want their energy to be up. And
you don't see as many black horses as you do browns or palominos or paints or.
Yeah, it's really tough to find. I mean, they're like a dark chocolate brown. So when you find a black horse, it's really, really great. But yeah, so it's like when I go out to photograph them, sometimes I'll take 2,000 pictures and I'll get like 2 that work. So
It would be, I have no artistic talent whatsoever, none, zero. But it would be humanly impossible to do this kind of work without having a photograph.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
It'd be
yeah.
impossible.
Yeah, I take the pictures and then I manipulate if I have to superimpose the flag. And here's a backstory. So I took the flag to a friend of mine in Colorado, and he had a horse, and she did not care what I did with her. So I had to put the flag on her, and I put her in like a million different poses. So when that time came where I couldn't put a flag on the horse, I could pull it from the pictures.
Oh, smart.
That I took from her because she didn't care. She just let me.
Oh, diva.
Yeah. So I have she posed with the flag in many different positions, so
That's
I could.
so cool.
Yeah.
That's
so
a
that's
good
kind
idea.
of
That's
behind
really
the.
good.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the flag, because I know that flag has a story.
I don't know if the flag has a story because I bought the flag, right? Yeah, so I bought it because, gosh, it's been so long because I needed an American flag that wouldn't mind being put on a horse, you know? And so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right,
But it's been around the U.S.
Yeah.
It's traveled around quite a bit. It's been to Tennessee when I photographed it on Blackjack, which is Mara's
Number 5.
brothers and sister-in-law's horse. It's been to Florida. It's been to Colorado. It's been shipped to Ohio for my niece to put it on her horses to photograph for me. So it's a special flag. Yeah. So I'm really excited for the lodge to have it.
Yeah, it's just fascinating to hear a little bit about how you do this because, again, it's just so spectacular and so amazing.
Right.
Thank you. We're going to switch gears now. I had a real privilege to interview many of these veterans, combat veterans, mostly combat veterans, via Zoom for our program tonight. It was great to get to know them a little bit. It was inspiring and dramatic and emotional and uplifting, to talk to them. And one of them is Jerry Olson. Can you talk about Jerry a little bit?
I could talk about Jerry a lot,
Well, we only have another
but I have
hour
to be
and a half.
kind, so I'll keep it really short. No, Jerry, we love you. Jerry is one of our board members who is an old friend of ours, and actually was a really, 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 he was a good friend of Alex and a lot of the kids in Byron, where Alec was, where we were living when Alec was killed. But he is a phenomenal friend. He was there for us the night that Alec was killed. So to have him show up, and he was super, super helpful and beneficial. He also led the candlelight vigil the night we came home from the airport after Alec died. So Jerry's just a super great old friend, and
Well,
also a board member.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's meet and hear from Jerry right now.
When you ask yourself, would you be willing to put 1,000 miles on your body for a combat veteran that you love, that you know, maybe that's passed away, maybe that unfortunately has taken their own life? Because that's really what this is about. We want to save our combat veterans. And since Trek for Troops is one of our biggest fundraisers that we have as an organization, it's pretty cool to say that it's now a national event. The challenge is you and a team navigate 100 miles over Veterans Day weekend. Now, when I say navigate 100 miles, that means by foot, not on a bike, not on a horse, although it would be a lot easier. Anybody can do this. You can take the youngest kid that's able to walk, or you take the mom that's pushing a baby stroller. It doesn't mean you have to go put on combat boots and a helmet to go, but you want to put on a 50-pound sack? I will stand right by your side. I have enough crazy in me to make people think, well, if one guy can do this, you certainly can do that. People don't just follow people walking on social media. That's a given. So I thought, in order to do Trek for Troops, to really kick it off, you have to do something just totally crazy. I've walked 100 miles wearing an 80-pound weight vest. I attempted to go 400 miles in 4 days by foot from the site of Darkhorse Lodge back here to my hometown of Byron, Illinois. I've reached 260 miles of that on my own. The team that I was with, collectively, we crushed 500 miles that weekend. I've carried a 100-pound sandbag for 100 miles that had no handles. I drug a 200-pound rescue Randy Dow for 25 miles. 2 years ago, I attempted to low crawl. That was going to go for 25 miles, and that didn't work out so well. I've done quite a few challenging things on purpose, but I think people need to understand the weight of the world that these veterans feel when they're deployed, not only in combat, but just away from their families in general. And then you add on top of it, okay, now we're sending you to a combat zone. The goal is to spread the word, to be excited for these veterans. There's a 110% chance I will never know anything about most of them, but I will do 110% of everything I can for them.
And one of the other service members that I got to meet by Zoom is Kurt Douglas. Talk a little bit, Gretchen, about Kurt.
Kurt is another dear friend of ours. Jerry's an old friend. Kurt is a relatively new friend who lives in West Tennessee and has come out and done some amazing things with us for the lodge. I already mentioned that he and his family helped do some of the painting, but he If you have a chance to listen to Kurt's YouTube video, to watch the Darkhorse 450 on YouTube, I recommend you do so. I watched it no fewer than 10 times in a row the first time I saw it. I mean, really, he needs to narrate my life, is what I've told him.
And how do you find that when you go to YouTube?
Just YouTube, look for Darkhorse 450, and it's Kurt Duggar, Darkhorse 450. Yeah,
Right.
Kurt's an amazing young man.
All right, we're going to meet Kurt and hear from him right now.
I was looking for different ways to help out the Darkhorse Lodge and help them raise money and get more eyes on them. And I thought, what would be a better way than the most ridiculous flying machine you could imagine, doing a flight that most people would never consider doing. It all worked out great. Darkhorse 450, it's a paramotor flight across Tennessee. Most people don't know what a paramotor is, but think about like a lawn chair with a propeller on it hanging under a parachute. That's about what it amounts to. It sounds ridiculous. You start out on the ground with the wing laid out behind you, and you actually take off running and then hit the throttle on your motor and run into the sky and fly away. I've made 2 attempts. The first one, we got pretty far and eventually got shut down by weather. Actually, the end of that flight made a great story that taught me a lot of things about actually helping veterans. The second one, I had an engine failure at about 1,500 feet. Actually, I sheared the crankshaft on my motor and had to glide into an emergency landing. It sounds way more dramatic than it is. It was pretty calm and peaceful. It just cut us short on the second day. That was just a little frustrating. We met a whole lot of interesting people on that trip who we got to talk to about the Darkhorse Lodge, and some of them have been some great assets for that. We start out in the northwest corner of Tennessee in Union City, and we fly down to Tullahoma, hitting airports along the way. We try to stay south of Nashville since there's a lot of air traffic there that's a lot bigger than us. And then we end up in the northwest corner of Tennessee, ideally in the mountains. This year, we're looking at actually splitting it up into 2 weekends to try to give more people a chance to get in. It's a lot nicer when you have people on the ground you can count on. So if you have a motor out and have to land in the middle of nowhere, they can come pick you up and you don't have to walk home. So yeah, we're looking for anybody that wants to tag along, not necessarily pilots, but if people just want to jump in their car and ride with us for part of the way or all of the way, we'd love to have them. You can't really describe it. It is the most beautiful, peaceful thing that you could ever imagine most of the time.
Deb, before we go, there's still a little bit more left, but before we go, we're going to talk a little bit more about the paintings, how to purchase them. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I have 4 new paintings that we're releasing today, and the first one is Samson. This is Darkhorse number 16, and then directly behind me is Apollo, Darkhorse 15, and then Aquinas, Darkhorse 13, and then Socrates is Darkhorse number 14. These are all original paintings. These are oil on canvas, and when I paint the originals, I like to paint very large. So I just want to let you guys know there's also some prints available if you go to ferrarigallery.net. So right on the homepage, all the Darkhorse original paintings and prints. So the prints are smaller sizes. They're on canvas, they're on acrylic. So if you'd like to kind of peruse and see what those look like. And just so you know, I am donating 15% of the sales to the Darkhorse Lodge. And also, Gretchen always gets the rights to all the original paintings, so she can use those images to use it however she'd like to help continue to raise money and support the lodge. Incredible.
So I don't know if it's on your screen again, but it's Ferrari, like the car, Ferrari gallery.net. Other important numbers to give you right now before we go. To donate, text DHL25 to 44321. Once again, DHL25 to 44321. darkhorselodge.org/donate, and the Darkhorse Facebook page to stay current, make a donation, and follow as well. As we mentioned before, we ask you to tell your friends and your family and your neighbors and your coworkers and your dog about the Darkhorse Lodge. There's been a lot accomplished so far, but there's still a long way to go. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Can I say something real quick?
No.
I would very much
We're
like
on the
to,
internet.
I would very much like to thank Maura for putting this entire thing together.
Yes.
Deb and
Yes,
Jim for
Maura.
hosting tonight. Craig for coming out to literally host.
To do nothing.
And
Yeah, these guys flew in from Florida.
From Florida.
Tennessee, yeah.
Chris Nealon, who is an outstanding videographer, photographer, editor, producer. I mean, I don't, we
Jack
couldn't
of all
do this without you.
trades.
Jack of all trades. And Ansley, who is behind the scenes in Georgia. We literally could not do this without you guys putting it all together. It's
And
been
our studio
astounding.
audience.
And our studio audience.
Yes.
Yeah, and without all you guys out there, I mean, truly, thank you so much, because this is happening because of $1, $5, $10 donations at a time. It's
We want
we
those
raised over
doors
$1 million
to open.
because of that. Over $1 million has been raised so far. We have a little bit to go, but we're going to get there because of all the help and all of you guys doing all this. So I personally would like to thank everybody for what you guys have.
It's been an honor and privilege to be here tonight. So one more time, Voices of Service and the song Hope. Thank you a million for joining us, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Who do you call when everybody lets you down? Where do you go when you're a stranger in your house?
Nobody knows the weight of chains that hold you down. That heavy load, just let it go for now.
A little hope, you gotta hold on till you find it. A little hope, 'cause sometimes heroes need reminded that even in the darkest time, we could spark the smallest light, we could start a fire. I know. A little hope, a little hope.
What do you pray when you run out of things to say? All out of faith, and I can see it in your face. Nobody knows the weight of chains that hold you down. That heavy load, just let it go for now.
A little hope, you gotta hold on till you find it. A little hope, 'cause sometimes heroes need reminded that even in the darkest times, we can spark the smallest light, we can start a fire. I know, a little hope, a little hope.
We bet that you thought you forgot to draw the winner for the 8x11 canvas at Lusitano. And you're right. You did forget.
But here we are.
So we okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna draw.
Okay.
Holler.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
So,
That's the worst. Oh,
And the winner,
drum roll, please. Carla Cluck.
Carla!
Carla. All right, Carla.
That's awesome. Congratulations, Carla.
Congratulations, Carla. And once again, have a great weekend.
Yes.
Take care, y'all. Thank you.
Bye. Yay.